Dr. Sophia Sinclair, an author and an ASU Associate Professor, has been awarded the Guggenheim Fellowship for her new poetry project. The fellowship is awarded to culture creators based on their career achievements and exceptional promise. Here to tell us more about her new poetry project, a book titled Planet Dread, is Dr. Sophia Sinclair. Welcome, Dr. Sinclair. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Guggenheim Fellowship.
Yes.
I mean, this sounds like a really exciting measure, an exciting opportunity for you. Can you tell me what your reaction was when you received it?
Well, first I was in disbelief because I was like, did I really win the Guggenheim? Because the way the letter they send you is worded in this strange way of like, you can't tell anyone. And, you know, this is like the first step to the things you need to do. And so I kind of texted my literary agent, like, I think I just won a Guggenheim. You know, it's such a great honor to be, and particularly my group of poets that were awarded this year, some of them were like my literary heroes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've accomplished so much in seemingly a short amount of time. How does that feel to achieve that and have your talents and your experiences be recognized in such a great way?
I mean, it feels surreal, but it also feels very gratifying and wonderful to, you know, to have been putting in the hard work since I was really a teenager in Jamaica, and to see, you know, some of these things come to fruition. You know, I'm very grateful for it.
My assumption is that some of the best writing that connects all of us, whether poetry or fiction or autobiography, comes from its most personal level. And I wonder, what is it like for you to share on that level with people where this is, I mean, you're not just an artist, you are someone who's really sharing the most personal history. That must be incredibly rewarding, I would think.
I mean, it's terrifying.
Okay.
And also rewarding when, you know, sharing these very vulnerable particularities of your life. The hope is that it reaches the reader that needs it the most. Okay. And that even though, you know, it is something that's really particular to myself and my own upbringing, that it has enough universality that it will connect with readers, and I think it has.
Well, let's talk about Planet Dread a little
Yes.
bit. I'm going to make the assumption it has something to do with climate change on top of, or climate crisis or climate worries. But where does that personal thing I'm thinking about, where does it all blend into what you're hoping for with Planet Dread?
Yeah, so the title, so this is a project that I was awarded the Guggenheim to work on. So it's not written yet.
Right. Okay.
Right now it is very much like in the beginning stages. I've written some of the poems for it, but it's the title is a double title. So, you know, half the book is thinking about the climate crisis. And I'm from Jamaica, and islands like Jamaica, though we have the smallest carbon footprints, our citizens will be among the first climate refugees in the oncoming years. And so I was born by the seaside in Jamaica, and already our coastline is eroding, the sea levels are rising in Jamaica. And for me, it's a very important thing to think about, to write about. Mm-hmm. In some ways, everything I write about, you know, for the rest of my life will be about this topic, this sort of eco-poetic frame of thinking about climate change.
Well, what you write is for the world, but it makes sense that you're in Arizona, because that's certainly a concern for all of us here every day as well.
Yes.
How the climate crisis will affect us.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, already we kind of have to inure ourselves to the heat, and you know, thinking about, well, how much more
exactly.
can we endure? It is an interesting thing to think about. Yes.
Let me ask you a broad question about poetry.
Yes.
Because there is a discussion there's been over the years by those of us who are, I do have an English degree, but it was not from poetry. So the feeling that is poetry as accessible, as all-encompassing as maybe we'd like it to be. And yet it seems with the work you're doing, poetry is as powerful as it's ever been. Does anyone ever come up to you and say, wow, what you're writing is brilliant, but poetry? I'm not sure I get that. Is there ever convincing that needs to be done to tell people, no, poetry is incredibly relevant, and it's something that you should read more of?
No, I don't think anyone is so bold as to come and say that to me.
Or obnoxious, or whatever it may be. Yes.
You know, I think And part of why I love being a teacher and a professor here at SU is because I want to change a lot of the ideas that people have about poetry. You know, that sometimes I think it's the way that you first encounter poetry in high school or the way it's taught as if it's like a math problem you need to solve really turns a lot of people off of poetry. But when you think about it, poetry is a thing we turn to in times of crisis. You turn to it when you're in love. You read a poem at your wedding. You read a poem at a funeral. Poetry really is one of the most universal and most ancient forms of communication that we have.
We just have a few seconds left, but are you finding that your students are picking up on that and excited to work with you on some other things?
I mean, yes, like they see my excitement and hopefully that kind of catches on because I get very, very excited talking about poetry and thinking about poetry as something that quite literally changed the course of my own life.
Yes.
And so I truly believe in the power of poetry.
Well, Dr. Sinclair, thanks so much for being here.